Hey, this is Tiqqle, and in this video we're going over the Farseer Hero Talent Tree. That's a lot to say at once, but it's the first one that's came out for Shaman. It's for Elemental Shaman and Restoration Shaman. Sorry, Enhanced Shaman, you're still waiting on your two-handed Wind Fury. But we're going to go through the talent tree. If you want to see my initial reaction, I had a few drinks, and we went through the tree, and I was yelling a lot, but I'll put the link down below if you want to know what I really think. But in this video, we're going to go over the talents, and I'm going to give some suggestions of what I think Blizzard should consider making changes, because right now, it is pretty boring. Sorry, but I'm a little sad about it. But we're gonna go ahead and go through it. It's all about ancestors. Farseer. Interesting. I'm reading a book, the Farseer trilogy. But anyway, this is what it's all around, which is called the ancestors. Primordial Wave calls an ancestor to your side for 6 seconds for Elemental, and for Resto, Unleash Life calls an ancestor to your side for 6 seconds. Whenever you cast a healing or damaging spell, an ancestor will cast a similar spell. So this is almost like the Elemental Shaman Mastery Overload, which has also made its way into SOD with Classic, with healers as well, so that's kind of interesting. But yeah, it's all around this, and there's some passive things we're going to go through. But let's go ahead and just jump right into it. My initial reaction to this is the conceptual thing for this tree is that it's okay. I think ancestor spawning could be okay, depending on how they do it. Now, in World of Warcraft and in any MMO, the most important thing is how effective is that new thing they're introducing. If every ancestor that I call in is doing huge damage, let's say they're doing 200% of my damage, then of course I'm going to love it because it's going to make me just do a ton of damage. They're going to be mimicking everything that I'm doing. Hopefully, like if I Earthquake on Ellie, hopefully the ancestor Earthquakes, etc. So it's really the scaling that will determine if it's good or not. I'm mostly going to be talking about playstyle and flavor because I think that's also very important for people being even interested in playing that spec. If they like I'm saying, if they make these ancestors truck for the healing and elemental and they are the best parsing everything, people will play it. It's all about that tuning. But in terms of playstyle, let's already go over two things off the bat. Number one, Primordial Wave is the focus for elemental. That makes me sad. Primordial Wave is obviously critical in Elemental Shaman's rotation right now. It's basically the burst. It also triggers other talents. It has a lot of synergy into the build, and it's pretty deeply ingrained into the new talent trees, which I think are awesome in Dragonflight. The downside is Primordial Wave was introduced back in Shadowlands, and now with the remodel of the animation, like sure, okay, it's not quite that anymore, but maybe rename it then or something so I can totally purge Shadowlands memories from my psyche. But anyway, I'm a little disappointed it's hinging on that. I'm not sure what else it would do. There could be an RNG aspect if you were to put it with something with Earthshock or something like that, or a spender or a certain amount of Maelstrom spending, but not that psyched that it's tied to Primordial Wave. Unleash Life, I think, is kind of interesting for Resto because that means that they're going to basically be talenting into that like every time if you go this build. But anyway, 6 seconds is also interesting. 6 seconds, if you think about it, if every global is 1.5 seconds, ignoring haste effects, then that's 1, 2, 3, 4 globals you're going to get with your ancestor mimicking you after they are summoned, right? And honestly, if you think about it, if you Primordial Wave and that calls an ancestor for 6 seconds, your next cast is either going to be Lava Burst or it's about to be Lava Burst. So that, so anyway, probably focus on Lava Burst again in terms of talent tree build, it kind of feels like. Or it could be Stormkeeper charged Lightning Bolt, but it's after a Primordial Wave. So then why is it tied to Primordial Wave? Do you get what I'm saying about the Primordial Wave linking? It kind of seems like it pigeonholes it a little bit. So 4 globals, you get 4 things that you do. Better make them useful because your ancestor is going to be there. Now, the whole concept of ancestor, I made a lot of jokes about. What the hell does that mean? Does that mean my aunt, my uncle, my great-grandmother is going to be summoned to my side? Like, what does that mean? Are they going to, there's both sides of the spectrum. It could be super cool. Could be, like, awesome, like, orcs and Tauren and dwarves and stuff from the lore, from whatever, right? That would be really cool. They could be huge things. They could be huge elementals or whatever. Or, well, why would they be elementals? But anyway, they could be huge, or they could be tiny, or they could just be dinky and you just ignore them. The other challenge that someone in the chat brought up to me is, what if you can kill them? What if they have as much health as a totem, right? I'm hoping you can't kill them, but I don't want my ancestor to die again. I also don't know if I want grandma to be watching me play the game and potentially doing more damage than me. So Anyway, enough on this. That's the core of this, though, and keep that in mind as we kind of go down these trees. So we're going to go down the left side first, then the center, then the right. So left side, your ancestor, so you have a choice here. Your ancestor spells are 20% more powerful. Interesting. It's not saying it's 20% more powerful than you. It's giving the ancestor spells a buff. Okay, ancestors have a 15% chance to call another ancestor when they expire, so they could chain for more, right? Okay, that seems kind of decent. Ancient Fellowship kind of hypes me up a little bit, maybe, because of some other stuff I've already read. But yeah, so we also don't know how much damage they're going to do. Like I said, that's all about tuning. It's all about their cast. They're going to cast the same things I'm casting. So what if I spawn if I spawn something and I get stunned, or I spawn something and I have to move, you're going to waste literally one of the, multiple of the 4 globals that you have to spend. Anyway, so this is kind of decent, though, I would say, like decent in terms of all the ones that we're going to be going through. When an ancestor, this one is 2 options for elemental. It's when an ancestor is called, they reduce the cooldown of fire elemental, storm elemental by 10 seconds. I'm not that excited about this. Now, while again, this is great, so I can get my storm elemental, my fire elemental out a lot more often. Playing with those pets is a really passive playstyle. I mean, storm ele is a little bit more engaging, but it just doesn't hype me up. It doesn't make me excited. And to be honest, it doesn't really, I mean, it kind of has the ancestor have an effect on my overall build, but I'd rather it be something ancestor focused, but, or when the ancestor crits, it makes me blah, 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 right? Or something like that. For Resto, when an ancestor is called, they reduce the cooldown of Riptide with a capital I by 2 seconds. So that's kind of neat. I do notice that this tree, you'll see Riptide seems to be a core aspect of this. I see this tree probably is going to be PvP favorable for Resto Shamans, but we'll see. Riptide is obviously being spammed on cooldown right now like crazy, which is good because it makes it like Shamans are doing well in PvP, but like class design wise, is that what we want? Is that what we want? Nature's the next one down on the left side is Nature's Harmony. There's a choice between Nature's Harmony or Earthen Communion. Reduces the cooldown of Nature's Guardian by 10 seconds, and you'll see why that might be important, and causes it to heal for an additional 5% of your max health. Sorry, Nature's Guardian, that's the heal proc one. Earthen Shield has an additional 3 charges and heals you for a bunch more. So if Ellie takes it, obviously that's going to be hybrid healing for Earthen Communion, but it actually would be pretty good for putting on, tanks, etc. for Resto Shaman. That's another reason why I think this is a pro Resto Shaman tree. Nature's Harmony, though, reducing Nature's Guardian by 10 per second and causing it to heal for an additional. That is, I hope this is a placeholder. I just don't see that as being great, right? I don't see a passive heal proc when you get low. That potentially could never happen in a PvE situation, right? In PvP, maybe, but I don't really see that ever happening, so it's not really very useful. Again, I would rather have it be Ancestor, when the Ancestor, what do they say? Expires, dies again, then something happens, right? Or, something like that would be kind of more interactive, because I see these heroic, like the hero talent trees, as the opportunity to augment what they've already built on for Dragonflight. So I'd rather have them bring in stuff that either is like flavor or it makes other builds possible that haven't been possible, like Elemental Shaman, Stormkeeper, double Stormkeeper, Lightning Rod, stuff like that has not been played at all. Like what if this could augment that so it is leaning into more possible builds being created? So anyway, that's that. The last one at the bottom, which again, everyone kind of ends up with here, which is an active. I guess it takes over, but your next healing or damaging spell within 10 seconds is instant and deals 10% increased damage or healing. If you know Nature's Swiftness, it is replaced with Ancestral Swiftness and causes Ancestral Swiftness to call an ancestor by your side. Fair enough. So in other words, you don't have to go down to that point in the talent tree to get this, but if you do, you get rewarded with another ancestor, which I think that's nice flavor. But let me just say this. If you're an elemental shaman, I'm going to ask you this question. What spell do you ever cast in PvP or PvE? What spells do you ever cast? You are generally pumping, other than Rage, sure, like Mythic Plus, though, you're like, even then is like mostly procs. You're mostly casting instants. Your Earthshock, your spenders are instant. You proc it on that good old lava burst. You're getting your Stormkeeper out for instant cast, chain lightning, all that stuff. Sure, you might use a chain lightning, generate Maelstrom, etc. You might, but it's just you don't have that much here. So I'd rather it do something way more, right? Because the only thing I see Elemental Shaman potentially using that for is Elemental Blast. That's actually what the one-shot builds for Elemental Shamans was. For a while, included Elemental Blast, instant cast with Nature Swiftness. Now they're saying 10% increased damage. That's our capstone? Come on, we need something bigger. This is clearly for Resto Shamans. Every Resto Shaman under the sun, take this. All of a sudden, you're going to be already taking it. It's going to be healing for more. It's going to be spreading with other things, as well as it's going to be calling your ancestors. So I see this capstone pretty lackluster for Elemental Shaman, and I would challenge Blizzard to say, tell me why this is like Ancestral Swiftness. Like, what does it have to do with ancestors? It has nothing to do with it. Like, you play into what you're doing here. Don't do something like all of a sudden this is like being whipped out. It's like this. It doesn't really fit. It kind of like I feel like half of this tree is in a direction, the other half's not. And I have some suggestions about that. This middle tree, here we go. Ancestors last an additional 2 seconds. Great, you're playing into it. Elemental Shaman, Lava Burst casts have an 8% chance to call an ancestor. Riptide has a 15% chance to call an ancestor. Well, first of all, change Lava Burst to 15, thank you. And there you go, like playing into it. That kind of makes sense. Now we're starting to see some momentum. This one seems kind of lazy. Primordial Capacity increasing max Maelstrom by 25. Who cares? Never, like, we shouldn't be maxing Maelstrom or, like, what is that good for other than pooling between pulls? And then Resto increases your max mana by 5%. Why? Why don't you have it Ancestors, like, I don't know, regen mana by blah, blah, blah. Or, I don't know, or your ancestors generate your Maelstrom for you, right? You got Maelstrom generation, which is a common challenge in PvP and in PvE. Then you have Resto, you have a mana issue. Instead of giving 5% max mana, which is nothing, give something more interesting. Integrate it with what you're trying to do with ancestors, okay? That's my suggestion. Little baby suggestions. I got big ones coming up, though. Maelstrom Supremacy increases the damage of Earthshock, Elemental Blast, Earthquake by 8%. Okay, sure. Double that, please. 16%. Then you're talking about something I'm going to get excited about, or increasing the crit strike chance of those abilities, because critting is quite fun. Resto increases the healing done by Healing Wave, Healing Surge, basically everything by 8%, which is, I mean, that's pretty dope. Pretty dope. Actually, they're all your casts, they're not totems. So that's like, okay, I kind of like these types of hero talents that are just like, hey, you know what you got? More damage. But if you think about it, they could have just tuned the class to take this, right? They could just tune Elemental Shamans to have 8% more damage, right? The damage ones are more boring to me than crit strike, crit damage, cooldown reduction, something that's not just damage, though, because damage, again, that's a tuning thing. You could argue, is Blizzard just gonna, tune Elemental Shaman's damage a little bit, like 8% less for these skills? And then once they get max, they can get this, and now they're at what they could have been baselined at anyway. You get those psychos that think that stuff, On the right side, we got Lava Burst gains an additional charge and deals 5% increased damage. I like the 5% increased damage, but like I said, people are going to just say you just tune that into the talent. Lava Burst gains an additional charge. I get it, man. I get it. Lava Burst is awesome. Spicy meatballs. But that's the only build we got, right? I would like to see something happening with lightning bolts. Or chain lightning getting buffed for single target, or something weird, like something quirky, because Lava Burst is the winner of this expansion for Elemental Shamans for PvP, PvE, etc. Okay, I get it. Now give me something that's going to make something else more viable, right? Make something something about lightning. I don't know. You've tried it in the past, it hasn't worked, but try harder. Resto, Riptide gains an additional charge and heals 5% more. Riptide again, very focused. Spirit Walker's Momentum, using spells with a cast time, increases the duration of Spirit Walker's Grace and Aegis by 1 second up to a maximum of 4 seconds. Kind of interesting. I would instead suggest don't have it be based on my cast, have it based off the ancestors. That would be cool, dude. My ancestors are powering me to run and cast and be resistant to stuns and CC. Now that's kind of interesting. And so I am doing the spenders, etc., to get more ancestors, and then it synergizes with the momentum. Now you got this one, Final Calling. This is my favorite one. Blizzard, I like whoever did this one. It was probably Jared. Elemental. When an ancestor expires, they cast Elemental Blast on a nearby enemy. A lot of questions come into play here. Does that proc Surge of Power as a spender for me? I don't know. Does it proc Elemental Equilibrium because it was all the schools of magic for me? I don't know. Kind of interesting, and also potentially doing big damn. When an ancestor expires, they cast Hydro Bubble on an injured ally. Pretty cool, Blizzard. Way to invent something and put it into this tree. Hydro Bubble sounds like something Squirtle would do. Surround your target in a protective water bubble for 10 seconds. The shield absorbs incoming damage, but the absorbed damage amount decays fully over its duration. This is something cool. Augments play style. I have no idea what that Hydro Bubble has to do with an ancestor, but it is linked to when they expire, it does something. Super cool. So overall, here's where we're at. I think for Elemental Shaman, this is I give this probably a C in like how this is working out for Ellie. Resto Shamans, I'm giving this a B+. I'm giving this a B+. But to be honest with you, overall, I think the tree, and I've seen this in some other trees. First of all, let me thank Blizzard for not making the text on every one of these talents a freaking Bible. I do appreciate that. Thank you. But let me just give you some thoughts I have about how this could potentially be better. Number one, if you're going in with ancestors, let's freaking do it right. Think of Demon Warlock. When Demon Warlock's out there doing casts and stuff's happening, make it so my ancestors are just popping out fast. Make the left tree, maybe? I know it's not trees, okay? People will explain that to me too. But just think of it like this. One option, one path, one mini build could be you get a lot of ancestors and whatever they're doing happens, right? Or you're getting ancestors and they're giving me stats or they're giving me something, more crit damage, more whatever, because they're making me feel safe because I'm among my ancestors. And it's like the Boston, the Irish Boston Catholic folks on the left side, you know, many ancestors, right? And then down the middle, you get strong ancestors. The more damage that I do, the stronger their damage is. Something interesting where it's like, okay, now my ancestors are getting stronger, or I'm getting stronger based off the ancestors as they're chaining, right? That would be super cool, right? That way, it's a mini, kind of like something that I could try to keep up. Now that's just big. Now it's not a lot of ancestors. You got a few big uns. And then on the right side, it could be something more interesting. Like, again, they're providing buffs, or they're doing procs, or they're putting a debuff, or something just a little bit more creative, or cooldown reduction, or something kind of interesting on the right side. That way you have, it's all about ancestors though. Like, this talent could be removed and replaced with something more interesting, like, you know, increases the chance of ancestors being spawned by blah, blah, blah. Or, like, again, I just don't really like that it's tied to Primordial Wave and Unleash Life. I kind of feel like it should be something either more often, because if you think about it, it reminds me of, it's a combination of, okay, you're always going to get, like, Primordial Wave forecasted. Like, okay, cool, and that's kind of like the flow of damage. But on the flip side, you have, deeply rooted elements for Elemental Shamans that if it never procs, it feels like doo-doo cheeks, right? We don't want that. But anyway, that's kind of my suggestion. I gave you a lot of thoughts on my Twitch VOD that is, again, linked below, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. Elemental Shaman, I do not see us taking this tree unless, again, if tuning makes this so great that we can't resist it and it's going to make us parse number one, of course everyone's going to take it. But to be interesting, to be excited about it, I would love to see some changes. I would love to see changes. This can go away. This can go away. Some of this damage stuff could become a little bit more interesting with cooldown reduction, crit percentage, or crit damage, or something like that. But that's what I would think, and that's what I have to say. So overall, Blizzard, thank you for your hard work on this new expansion. I'm really excited for it, but would like to see what's up with this, and I would like to see some tweaks. And to see what happens. I would like to see this tree really hum. And I would say the best tree I have read, and I haven't read them all, I'm going to admit it, because some of them are a book. The Warlock Hellcaller, this tree, if you haven't seen this tree, everybody watching, you should read this and you should be like, dude, everything makes sense. Everything is connected. It is pretty legit. It's all about Wither, which is it's going to add an augment playstyle. In this is augmenting nothing. This is augmenting nothing. Elemental Shaman will play exactly the way Elemental Shaman plays because of this, which is not what we want. This changes abilities, makes it all about Wither, spreading, proccing, popping, blasting. This, you're going to play. My biggest problem is, you're going to go from Dragonflight to the new expansion. a war within yourself, and you're going to play Elemental Shaman the exact same way you have been playing it. No, we want some flair. We want some flair. Making me do something, and I have to change my playstyle to proc the ancestors. Something that's not just tied to the skill. So, you know what I mean? So something like that would be kind of interesting, as well as like give me a big banger at the end, you know? But anyway, with that being said, that was this video. I hope, let me know what you think down below in the comments. Let me know what you think should change. I'm hoping Blizzard does see this video because we do need some help here. And we all know the Shamans are not on the top of the totem pole, as one would say, for the class design or class focus. But hey, we all love it, and we'll keep it going. So, guys, with that being said, we'll see you in the next one or on stream every day still over on Twitch. Thank you, guys. See you later. Bye.